And we are having a good morning. It is 8:03 on your Sunday. It is Music and Stuff, presented by Eureka Savings Bank, the best place to borrow, the best place to save. Joining us in studio live this morning is Superintendent of District 289, Bradley Cox. Good morning.
Well, good morning. How are you today?
Doing good. Now, you are in the position of being superintendent of, to let people know, there's 2 school districts in Mendota.
Yep, Mendota is what they refer to as a dual district school system. And so the elementary district, pre-K through 8, is actually an entirely separate district than the high school.
And so you are the superintendent of the cooler district.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so Mendota, a fun community, obviously a lot of different buildings and a lot of moving parts that you have to keep track of, and a lot of staff. How many people are working at 289?
Oh boy, when you look at full-time and part-time, we're probably in the neighborhood of 130 or 140 employees.
Wow. So a lot of responsibility falls on your shoulder, never mind the fact the education of all the students and about how many kids.
Yeah, a little over 1,000.
Yeah, so a lot going on there. Now, where did you get your start in education?
Oh boy, so originally I was a high school chemistry and physics teacher in Riverton, Illinois, which is a bedroom community of Springfield. And then after that, I got to spend 3 years in the absolute worst job in education, which is a junior-senior high principal, which means that you have every single night duty ever the entire year. And so
you got to enjoy a lot of proms and homecomings and dances and basketball games. And
we could spend this entire morning just telling stories about those. And then I've been a superintendent ever since. This is my 20-something years as a superintendent.
So schooling, where'd you go to college at?
So I did my undergrad at EIU in Charleston, and all my education work has been at ISU.
Ah, okay. So you hit the books hard. You got yourself up to superintendent. Now, is that what you wanted? Was that like your goal to become superintendent, or were you thinking in life like, boy, I just want to be a science teacher, or I could talk about history all day long?
Yeah, actually, it was something that I had never had any plans on doing. I actually never planned on being in education. Got my bachelor's in chemistry and was a scientist, and that was kind of my path. And then, a series of events leads you to where you're supposed to be in life. And then I started teaching and really enjoyed it. Really liked working, connecting with kids. And when I was a teacher, my building principal was, we'll just be kind and call him ineffective. And so the teachers kind of ran the building, and I'm like, I think I can run a building. And then when I got into the principalship, I worked under a series of, we'll be kind again, and call them ineffectual superintendents. And I'm like, I can do better. And so then I think I have. So there you go.
And so it was a career path half set on spite of.
Yes. I like to refer to it more along the divine intervention, but there's probably some spite in there too.
And so now you came to Mendota about a year and a half ago on the heels of a very rough time in education.
Yes.
With the pandemic, that pretty much the pandemic was like dropping pretty much a thing of nuts and bolts right into a blender. I mean, just absolute chaos and mayhem. And you came in after that on sort of the rebound, as it were, post-pandemic. How do you think things are going right now post-pandemic with education? Are the kids getting caught back up? Are we where we need to be? Are we behind? How are we looking?
Yeah. So I can really especially speak to what's going on, at Mendota Elementary. We've really rebounded nicely. When you look at some of our latest, both internal and external test scores, we're really making, great gains coming back, and really not quite up to where we were pre-pandemic, but we're almost there. And I think most districts, especially around this part of the state, are really starting to make some nice gains. But it was just such a huge setback. There were groups of students, especially younger kids. You look at that class that at the end of their kindergarten year, when schools got shut down in March, and then they really didn't come back to school and really kind of get back into the groove of things for a year and a half. And so now here they are showing up as second graders not really knowing how to school.
Yeah.
And so, it was really tough. And, but, we're fortunate at, 289 in that we've got just a great staff, a lot of hardworking people really putting in the work and taking care of kids. So we're very, very blessed.
Now, the other thing that happened with the pandemic is sort of this technological leap forward, though. I mean, as much as the pandemic set the kids back, I think there were some things that districts and the federal government and the state government spent money on that have sort of stepped forward with things, especially in the district. I mean, for example, air conditioning. Bless the air conditioning.
Yes, yes. That I'm going to tell you what. You want to make people happy, put air conditioning in.
Yeah.
And so the federal government, our air conditioning project, and just to, it's kind of an overview. Mendota Elementary is 3 buildings, and of the 3 buildings, 2 of them were half air conditioned.
And by the way, I don't know who the engineer was behind the half air conditioning part of the project, but boy, they sold them on a doozy with that. Let's air condition just half the buildings.
Well, in each case, as they put on an addition, the additions were air conditioned. And then, of course, our largest district, Northbrook, had next to no air conditioning. And so we ended up putting new HVAC in, I don't know, probably about 75% of the campus. And it was a little over a $4 million project, and the feds paid for 3 of it.
Yeah.
So to be able to do a massive project like that and have so little come out of your district reserves, winner.
Yeah, and I remember sweltering in school. I attended the fine institution of Earlville.
Fantastic.
School district. And air conditioning didn't exist there. And we just sweated. And it was miserable. And it was awful. And I'm sure I'd be much smarter today if I'd had education back when I was younger. And that's the excuse I'm sticking to, mind you. But that's one thing. I mean, the pandemic was terrible and awful, but there were other technological gains too, right, in regards to networking and computer things and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've always liked to refer to it as silver linings, right? This pandemic, like you said, has been nothing short of horrible in almost every regard. But you have to look at, okay, well, what are some of the positives? Mm-hmm. And you had hit just a little bit on technology a little bit ago. Most school districts, really did use it as an opportunity to bring not only the technology that they have on hand, but then how they go about using it in ways that they had never done before. It's moved. Just with us at Mendota, it's moved us ahead to where in about 2 or 3 weeks, we're actually going to do a 1-to-1 Chromebook deployment with our 7th and 8th graders. And so, I would anticipate that within the next year at Northbrook, all of our kids will be taking their Chromebooks home. That's something that we've never had in the past. Mm-hmm. And so, that's that comfort level, that increased usage, all of that definitely took a big tick up during the pandemic.
And for families and or parents or just people listening who aren't familiar with the whole thing with the Chromebooks and the Google Classroom and the infrastructure behind the scenes, it is nothing short of incredible as the tools and resources now that the teachers and the students have to work together using a digital environment. It's not like the old days of, when some people maybe think of computers in the classroom, they think you use it as like a word processor. You're just typing it up and sending it out its way, printing it out and handing it to the teacher. It doesn't work that way now anymore.
Right. And there are so many different applications and platforms out there that are educationally based, that it's everything from a hub of where to do the activity to different tools that students have to different environments that they can work in. And it's actually one of the things that we spend time on is there's so many different ways to do this technologically, and as teachers develop on their own accord which ones they really like and which ones they become invested in, if you kind of let that run wild, the next thing you know, with 75 teachers across 13 grade levels. If you let everybody kind of run wild, now all of a sudden you literally have hundreds of different applications that you have to kind of track and manage and figure out. And so we're actually spending a lot of time right now this year paring that down and kind of reining everybody back in, having lots of great conversations in large groups of, okay, when we do science, what's the one or two ways that we want to engage technology and engage our kids in science instead of 15 just for science.
We'll talk more with Superintendent Cox at District 289. After this, it's Music and Stuff, brought to you by Eureka Savings Bank, here on Classic Country 100.1 WGLC. Classic Country 100.1 WGLC. It's Music and Stuff, presented by Eureka Savings Bank, the best place to borrow, the best place to save. This is the stuff portion of Music and Stuff, in case that hasn't been clear. You're not going to do any singing, are you?
No, but I just, actually, it's funny that you said that because I just now was realizing I'm stuff.
Yes,
so, okay.
You are 100% stuff. Superintendent Cox of District 289 in Mendota, the elementary and middle school superintendent, taking care of all of the kids in Mendota that attend
under the age of 14.
Under the age of 14, the public school in Mendota, of course. And let's talk a little bit about the athletics, especially at Northbrook and the Starved Rock Conference, I believe that they're in, and the different sports programs there. I have to say that Mendota does a great job of getting the junior high level involved in athletics in the region. A lot of places don't have a strong sports background for that. Yeah,
one of the things that is super important at the middle school level is to make sure that you do have that broad offering, because kids at that age, they really don't know exactly what they're going to end up being interested in. And so to be able to make sure that you do have, volleyball and basketball and track and field and scholastic bowl and band and just this year we added in cooperation with the high school district, we added an ag class in 8th grade. And so just to make sure that kids have an exposure to as many things as possible, you're not gonna, unless you actually are LeBron James, you're not gonna be LeBron James in 8th grade.
Yeah.
But it's super important to be able to have those opportunities, to grow and to gain those skills, not only actual physical skills, but also, things like cooperation and teamwork and leadership. And we do a really nice job of creating a broad platform for that.
And you have the facilities to do quite a bit. I mean, you are a middle school with your own track and field.
Yes, and very fortunate there. So not only do we have our own track and most of the field, but then we have our soccer field in the middle of it, and we've had some great teams. I think in the 2 years that I've been here, I think the soccer team has lost 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
So, just fantastic. And, we've really good facilities at Northbrook. We actually have 2 gyms. What I'm going to call our competition gym is in the process of getting a little TLC.
I saw the paint job.
Yes. And so it's amazing what a little coat of paint will do. But next year we actually host all the conference tournaments. And so this summer, the floor will get a refresh. The scoreboard will get replaced, which I'm not for sure how it's actually still functioning. But so we're in the process of refreshing quite a few things, and just trying to make sure that the kids have a facility that they're going to be proud of when they walk in the door every day.
Now, the future for 289, there's always a lot of things up in the air about the dual district thing in Mendota.
Sure.
And it's been off and on, back and forth, tug of war. About every 5 years, somebody comes up with the idea of, boy, we could consolidate everything.
Yeah.
And then it all falls apart again. I think right now we're at the dip where that conversation isn't happening. So
we have a great relationship with the high school. One of the things that, because I've always all of my experience has been in a unit district, and which means that pre-K through 12 is all in one organization. And so one of the things that was really important to me walking in the door was to make sure that we do have a great relationship with the high school district. And so it's not just me having really good connections with Superintendent Prasada and Principal Augenbaugh, but to make sure that all of our teachers are working together. Because I don't know if you know how this works, but 8th graders at Northbrook become 9th graders at the high school.
Most.
Right.
Unless
that's a great clarification. We're going to go with most. And so it's super important that those teachers, that the 8th grade science teacher is talking to the 9th grade science teacher. And I know that sounds like common sense, and it's not just when you're in a dual district situation. A lot of times in a unit district, it doesn't work out great like that. And so you have to make sure that you create, and I think create is a nice way of saying force opportunities that those teachers get together. And so every fall for the last 2 years now, we've had what we refer to as 90 up, 90 down. And so all of the 7th and 8th grade teachers spend 90 minutes talking up with the 9th and 10th grade teachers, and then those 7th and 8th grade teachers will have another 90 minutes working with the 6th grade team. And so we make sure that we kind of force those connections, and the majority of them, then there's a kind of a natural affinity there, across content levels, and so it really spawns relationships that happen, kind of more organically.
And let's talk about more of the future of 289. You guys have been working on this solar thing. You've been teasing a bit and laying the groundwork for. What is it necessarily going to be? Where is it going to be located at? What is it going to look like? And is it going to save money?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what. Kind of get a very transparent plug here. But in the year and a half that we've been in Mendota, we meaning my family and I just have had nothing but great experiences. The Board of Education that we have in Mendota, fantastic. From President Comedis' leadership on down.
They already hired you, by the way. You don't need to.
That's right, right, and that's my point. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything, right? And so the community has been fantastic and engaging and supportive. The teachers we have had. We just signed a new 5-year contract this summer. There's a sense of labor peace and cooperation that I think has been hard to come by in Mendota, and so. Just literally couldn't be happier with the way things are going. A lot of great people to work with taking care of kids. That being said, one of the things that the school board has been talking about recently over the last, probably 3 or 4 months is solar. Right now, with the state and federal grant programs, we're able to do a solar project in the neighborhood of $2.1 million, and 90% of it is paid for out of grants. So it's only out of pocket. It's only going to be a little over $200,000. And in the confines of that, the solar panels are going to go on the roofs, and so you have to make sure that the roofs are in good shape. And since the solar panels are on the roofs, kind of out of sight, out of mind, you're really not going to see them. There's not going to be, when you drive by Northbrook, there's not going to be a huge field of solar panels anywhere. And within that, we should be able to save between $30,000 and $40,000 per year for the next 25 years on our power costs. And so if you do the math, if it's a $200,000 out-of-pocket project and you're going to save $40,000 a year, well, this thing's going to pay for itself in 5 years. And then you've got the next 20 years worth of very, very super cheap electricity. So it's a great project.
And I hate to be the Debbie Downer, and I have to ask this question.
Of course.
Is this going to limit baseball in the parking lot and the kickball tournament at Lincoln because you're going to risk damaging the panels on the roof?
It's actually interesting because the answer is no. It will limit none of that. However, those are the things that you think about. You think about hail damage, and you think about winds, and all these different things. One of the things that I did was I actually took a field trip. I was almost going to use air quotes, like nobody can see air quotes on the radio. So I went over and spent the day about an hour east of here with somebody with a school district that has I think 8 buildings and 7 of them have solar panels on their roofs, right? And so it was just like a day of downloading and asking 100 different questions and scenarios and being able to make sure that, I mean, because this is taxpayer money. And even if at the end of the day you're only going to spend $200,000, that's still $200,000 of taxpayer money. And so you have to be super vigilant about that. And, so the board did its due diligence, and not only at the December board meeting did they approve a solar project, but they also approved a pretty significant amount of money to be spent this upcoming summer on security upgrades. And so making all of our entryways in each of the 3 buildings more secure. And so you should be able to see that, come August when you come to, drop your kids off and come to registration, you should be able to see a few improvements there.
A lot of money being spent on improvements, but for some reason the pizzas are still square.
That is, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But we're very fortunate in that they are rectangular, but very tasty.
Yeah. So, Superintendent Bradley Cox of District 289 in Mendota in studio here on Music and Stuff. We'll take another break. We'll be back after this here on WGLC. It is Music and Stuff presented by Eureka Savings Bank, the best place to borrow, the best place to save. 8:26 in the morning, 29-ish degrees. I'm Charles with you this morning alongside District 289 Superintendent Bradley Cox. You have been in the district for about a year and a half now, enjoying things. Family lives here, and you're a part of the community. What's some of your favorite things out and about and around Mendota?
Yeah, and so my wife and I just live a couple blocks north of Northbrook, and so fantastic little quiet neighborhood. We also have a place out at Woodhaven, and so we very much enjoy being out there as well. Our 4th grader definitely loves being out there and hanging out and all the activities
and feeding mosquitoes.
And yes, of course. But Mendota has been fantastic. I got to tell you, and I know that this is going to be 100% cliche, but walking in the door and getting set up, and having your first week of work being in July, and then all of a sudden you roll around the corner and you're trying to get school set up, and then you have this fantastic sweet corn event. That's a very amazing time of the year, and that really got us hooked in. I'm doing some work with the chamber as well, and so now I get to be a part of that kind of on a more integral level, and really enjoy it.
Education has had a rough go of things in the last couple of years, and a lot of it has turned political, and there has been a lot of things where you have legislative bodies sort of dictating what the role of education is these days.
Yep.
And there's been some controversial bills and things that have gone back and forth. There is the new sex education bill that I know has been ballyhooed about back and forth, and school districts have opted in, opted out of that. How does that impact District 289 and what your guys' plans and policies are for whatever the legislation ends up being?
Yeah, so the long and short of it is zero. It doesn't. And here's why I'm going to say that, is because a school district is the policies and procedures are put in place by a school board, and the school board is a representation of every community. And so our community is small town, rural, conservative, and our school board reflects those qualities. And so when there are things that get put in front of you, first of all, the things that get put in front of you, whether, regardless of what curriculum piece it is, there are always outs, right? And so very, very, very rarely in education are there curricula or policies or procedures that get pushed down from the state level that are written in stone, right? And so there are the vast majority of the time ways to work, especially if you've been a superintendent for 2 decades, right? You understand exactly how all of these things work. And so I don't want to go so far as to say creative noncompliance, but there are definitely ways to make sure that whatever actually gets implemented with your kids is exactly a reflection of the community that you have.
And tying into that then, because there are parents, and I'm sure, again, with the politicalization of education, that I'm sure have probably blown up your email box, or worse, handwritten letters.
Right.
Which are probably the most dreadful things to receive as a superintendent, is a 3-paged handwritten letter about things, and either threatening and or taking their children out of public school and doing homeschooling. What do you say to the parents that for some reason or another firmly believe that homeschooling is the better answer? What do you say to them about the public schools in Mendota, or public education in general, that say, no, pump your brakes a little bit, it's not as bad as it seems?
Yeah, the first thing that we always do is, I know that this seems basic again, but the first thing we say is talk to us. Right? What actually are your concerns? What are the things that you are hearing that are bouncing around in your household or in your head that are saying that my kids need to be somewhere else? And so the vast majority of the time, as soon as we get to have those honest conversations with those parents, we get to start to unpack a few things. We get to let them see exactly what it is that's going in place now, or what the path is. 99% of the time, then it's that we can actually use that as an opportunity to foster relationships instead of break them, right? And then, quite honestly, there is that 1 or 2% where you're just you can't come to some sort of resolution. The parent does really feel that keeping their kid at home is the best thing, which, spoiler, is never the best thing. Mm-hmm. Having kids in schools, being socialized, working with professionals, that's always the best path, and so that's where we try to get people. And
again, cable news doesn't cover the Mendota school board meetings, so therefore they don't know what it is in your community that's happening.
Correct. And funny that you should say that, though, because now if you go on our YouTube channel, you can see all of our school board meetings.
And can you let us know the exact times there is the flagrant nose picking by a school board member in the videos, by any chance?
It's typically actually me.
Just you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you are dead center then in the shot, so...
Of course.
Yeah, so the YouTube channel, if any people are interested in finding out the dreadfully, painfully boring at times duties of the school board, no offense, but man, I've been through a number of those meetings, and I tell you what, boy, you could use like a song and dance number in the middle of that.
You know what? So two things. First, I'm going to say all you have to do is search m289.org and you'll hit our YouTube or Facebook. And so the second thing is boring school board meetings. Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
That's exactly what
when they move them to the gymnasium, it's a bad sign.
Yes. And again, we could tell a slew of different stories there as well.
Glad to have you a part of the program this morning. Delightful. We'll try to do this again sometime.
Charles, I would love it. Thank you so much for having me in. This was delightful.
Yeah. So glad to have you here. And again, Mendota District 289 Superintendent Brad Cox. Again, good job so far. 1.5 years in.
Appreciate it.
And nobody's thrown eggs at the building yet.
And again, those are different stories as well.
Yeah.
But no, we're doing great. Couldn't be more proud of the organization and what we're doing.
And I look forward to being a part of the 8th grade graduation broadcast as I try to.
It's actually promotion.
Sorry
yes, to correct.
Yeah. It's a thing.
I got you.
Always enjoy that. And good luck the rest of the school year and winter break. How'd that go for you guys?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely perfect. Lots of friends and family and just enough downtime, and everybody came back to school last week refreshed and ready to get it.
And this reminds me of one last question.
Yeah.
I do have to say this. With the 2 districts.
Yep.
Do you intentionally just make sure the schedules are just slightly different just to annoy the households with high school kids and middle school kids? Do you just like go through and be like, do you just like you and Superintendent Prasad, you're just like, you know what? But this day we're going to make them different for fun and just cackle.
We actually spend quite a bit of time this time of year, actually, because we're getting ready to adopt next year's calendar. We try to get it. We try to get it as close to possible as we can. So we spend a lot of time trying to talk through different things. And so next year it'll be even closer. So
and if you have any influence on that, tell the high school, do not start school in the middle of the Sweet Corn Festival.
I'm pretty sure they'll take care of that for next year.
That was heartbreaking.
It'll be all right. Yep. It'll be all right.
There we go. Thank you so much.
My
Music
pleasure,
Stuff
Charles.
continues. It is Elvis's birthday today, so we got the King coming up here on Classic Country 100.1 WGLC.